All right. Well, Ken, I think we should just dive in. It's we're on
Yep.
time. We like to be punctual, and we don't want to hold
Yep.
our viewers up.
Yep.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome. I'm Rob Ambrosetti with KGG Consulting, along with my partner here, Ken Grubbs. Good morning, Ken.
Good morning. Good morning.
So, if you're new to Rep Talk, it's actually a podcast, and we would suggest if you come look us up on whatever medium or platform you use for podcasts, check out Rep Talk. It is basically the idea there is we talk about indoor air quality, HVAC. Some war stories. I've had a medical doctor on there talking about humidity. You might find something there. We've got several episodes. Go check it out as Rep Talk. This apparently, or obviously, since you're watching, you know about Rep Talk Live. The second time we've done this. The first time we had a panel of guests, and we still want to thank them for doing that that was already back in May. I can't believe it.
I know.
So such a good idea. We wanted to do this again, but a little bit different format. We found that Ken and I, we really wanted the format to be an open conversation here. We're going to start it off with a couple of ideas about economic recovery and indoor air quality and how the two kind of tie together. You know, everybody's been through the past 8 months together with the pandemic being out and the changes in our own HVAC industry. So, I would say at this point, let's kick it off, Ken. It's how we got to this point with this idea of economic recovery and indoor air quality. You and I saw a couple of reports from HARDI, which is the Heating, Air Conditioning, and Refrigeration Distributors International Group, which we're part of, and they send us reports. And in those reports, they were giving us COVID updates and economy updates through the thing. And one thing that really struck us in a couple of those reports was that right smack dab in the middle of the economic recovery discussion was indoor air quality. So I'll just tell everybody, you know, how we got here and what we saw that was
So
compelling.
that was, and I think it's always fun to make sure we understand that sort of just put an exclamation mark at the end of the sentence for us. In other words, we've already been doing this. We've been talking about air quality for years. We've been in this business for a while. And so it just sort of solidified our way of thinking about it already. We already know it's good for your health. We already know it's good for the bottom line. But to see an economic report from a trusted industry professional organization talk about economics, talk about problems in the economy, talking about the recovery, and then as part of that conversation, and they've done it twice now. There was another one just a few weeks ago that did the same thing. As part of that economic story, they chose to also talk about indoor air quality. HARDI could talk about anything. They could talk about any sector of our business. They talked about the economy, and they talked about indoor air quality. And I just thought that was so amazingly telling because there's a reason they're tied together. There's an incredibly valuable reason that they're tied together. And it's the obvious two reasons. One, it's the only way that we in HVAC can help with the situation. We have an opportunity to help with the current problem. At the same time, it is very much a new revenue channel for basically all of us, for the contractor, for the distributor, for the manufacturer who's been building these things to ramp up production. So there really is a natural fit between talking about economics, particularly a recovery, and indoor air quality. It was just like, it was so amazing to see it happen.
So I think I always like to compare, you know, pre-pandemic, I thought about what we were doing, and we've been around indoor air quality in this industry a long time. And, you know, it's the same people that we were talking about that were affected by poor indoor air quality pre-pandemic. And now you have this pandemic and these germs in the air now, these viruses, you know, COVID in the air now. What do we do? It's the same strategies. I felt really good about, you know, okay, I felt like we were in a position to be leaders and help people, right? More than anything, as far as what they can do and strategies they can do normally without a pandemic are the same strategies that we can now employ to help you breathe the cleanest air possible. And that ties into what we're saying as far as the economy goes. There's a huge, huge opportunity for us in this trade to focus that attention on actually helping those people. We went, like you said, I think you just said it, we went from a trade that promoted efficiency and comfort, right? Predominantly.
Right.
We didn't really talk about health. I mean,
no,
okay,
and which is great, by the way. In fact, the energy was born out of you know, the oil crises and things where we were bleeding energy everywhere, and we needed to tighten up our homes. We needed to stop losing air conditioning into a hot summer day through the windows and everything. So for sure it was important. And of course, comfort's important, but it's not noble. I mean, it's not genuinely, it didn't feel good at the end of the day to be helping somebody save on their electric bill. Helping someone potentially live a happier, healthier life feels really good to be part of that equation. It does. It just does.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I want to mention to everybody, our producer, Chris Grubbs, is actually with us today too. You just can't see him. He's actually there to help us monitor your comments. So please, we wanted to kick it off with that theme and this kind of discussion. If you have any input or questions, use the chat box or the comments box and we'll see them and we'll be able to address it. So again, we want to make sure this is interactive as much as possible. So Ken, I did something this morning and freshen up some numbers. I thought I'd take a peek at, what is the indoor air quality monitoring and solutions industry look like now in the midst of this pandemic. And what I found was, as recently as July 22nd, according to industryresearch.biz, the global air quality monitor market is valued at about 154.7 million US dollars in 2020 now.
And monitoring, Mark, you mean those devices that will tell you what's actually in your air.
So you stick this device in the airstream of your system or out in the space, within the space, and you sample the air to see what's in the air so that you can take appropriate action. Okay. So yes, thank you for clarifying that. So
no worries.
The air monitor market is valued at about 154.7 million US dollars this year. It's expected to reach $238.4 million by the end of 2026. So in about 6 years, it's going to exponentially grow. Okay.
Right.
I feel it's going to be, just from what we've seen the past 6 months, it's going to be more than that. Okay.
I think it's going to do that in the first year personally, but okay.
Yeah. So let's just lay it out. Yep. I just wanted to kind of get a gauge. I was really curious waking up this morning, and we're going to have this discussion. So then the other thing I found as of now, this is a little bit older. It's the beginning of March. A lot's happened since March, but according to Technavio, the indoor air quality solutions market. So any air purifiers, filtration, air exchangers. So any of the indoor air quality solutions market is expected to grow by about $10 billion over the next 4 years, actually 3.5 years.
Oh, nice.
And again, this is just my opinion, I think that's low.
Well, you said it yourself, though. Those numbers are from March. Imagine that we need to get a hold of these people or whatever and see what we can do for an update, because that was actually just going to be sort of organic pre-pandemic growth. So imagine what it's going to look like now.
Right. So it's kind of funny. Ken and I are both half glass full kind of guys. And we have I wanted to share, some ideas, play devil's advocate here. Glass half empty as it is now for a lot of you. If you're a contractor right now, I think you're struggling with finding equipment. The pandemic certainly threw a curveball in the manufacturing facilities here at home and abroad for subcomponents, trying to get subcomponents in to make those furnaces and air conditioners. And then obviously being shut down for a few weeks really caused a backlog in the demand. There's a pent-up demand right now. People got stimulus. It was like the perfect storm. People got stimulus checks in April. They were home more, working from home. They probably realized their equipment wasn't working as well as it should be after being at home all this time. And it was kind of the perfect storm to create this large demand for heating and air conditioning equipment as it is. And on top of indoor air quality accessories, since they're home so much, you might as well have the cleanest air. But it created this perfect storm where there's a shortage of equipment throughout a lot of the country. And I think the good news here is it's going to come around. Even though factories are at full capacity, there's still social distancing within those factories. So this is a little bit of a catch-up game we're going to have here through the rest of this year. As negative as that might be in that pent-up demand, I think that's still a good thing, knowing that employment should be there, jobs should be there. People should be working. If they want to consider changing and coming over into this industry, would be a great thing, because we need people anyway. Despite the pandemic, we need people to come into the trades. And again, another, and you and I had this conversation months and months ago about what's the outlook for our industry. And I always come back to two things that I found in the Hardy meeting in December. When I went to the Hardy annual meeting in December, there was a demographics guy, and I think I told you this. It was probably before pandemic. What I came away with was two really astounding things. A, we need workers. We need people to fill these jobs.
Yep.
B, even, and this was pre-pandemic, there's a housing shortage.
Yep.
There's a housing shortage going on right now. So if you're into construction trades, guess what? Great trade to be in. If you're in anything that has to do with construction and new housing, there's pent up demand. We need it. There's a shortage. And what was the stat that you saw about housing starts in July, despite them being down?
Right. Well, now housing starts are back up again. 17%, I think it was in that article we were looking at yesterday. July is 17% up. Now, we did take a dip, obviously, with the 60 days prior to that. So this is all about recovery, though. So I think the economic message almost has to be a little bit about confusion. I mean, it looks,
Yeah.
I think, like you said, we're positive guys. All the graphs are tilting back up the right direction now. So I think it's going to come through. Q3 and Q4 are going to surprise us all and be reasonably strong, especially in our industry. But there's a lot of mixed messages out there, so that it's hard to prove my point or our point.
Yeah.
Because the numbers are all over the place, but more or less, they're pretty good. Now, again, this has to segue over into we could be wrong, and there's no reason not to want to buffer your situation. If you're a contractor right now, hopefully the next 2 quarters are going to be awesome. I don't know if you're ready to actually segue over to the IAQ part of this, but I can't talk about the economics without just obviously starting to lean towards, as a contractor, what do I do? What do I do to ensure my foundational revenue for the rest of the year?
Yeah. Yes, that's correct. There is the other. So I'll throw in another aspect of this too. So out of this comes new technologies, and you're going to talk about segueing over into air quality.
Nice.
So
Perfect.
what has happened? And I kind of thought this in the beginning, I think it's created a lot of businesses to become more efficient. Unfortunately, a lot of businesses couldn't be open. You think about a restaurant, they had to figure out a way to survive. Bars, restaurants, figure out a way to survive. So we've adapted. I think a big box stores too, supply stores, and they had to get more efficient. You call your order ahead, it's ready for you, go in real quick and you come out with it. So there's efficiencies. And I thought in our trade and early on in this that, there's going to be some things coming out, and there has been new technologies to treat viruses and in the air, kill on contact type, strategies. And, it's interesting to see. So there's new technologies emerging. There's opportunity here to help. If you're watching right now, you're not within the trade and you're looking from the outside in, or if you're a homeowner or somebody looking, this is a good place to look in the construction industries, the IAQ industry. Get yourself, it's never too late, get up to speed. And we can help you with that too. So actually, we got our first question here, Ken. Chris is saying, I'll just relay it to you here. We can kind of still go on with our IAQ talk here but we wanted this to be interactive. This is great. So some buildings and businesses in New York can reopen with new HVAC system requirements. One of them is MERV 13 filtration. How will that affect the lead times? Where can those filters be found? Why not use HEPA? And should homes be doing the same thing? Awesome point. Wow. Yes, I happen to live in upstate New York, so I'm kind of familiar with what Governor Cuomo is doing here. Part of the stipulation is, yes, if your equipment can handle MERV 13 filtration, which, by the way, how did you arrive at MERV 13? For those of you who may not know what the MERV rating is, it's a scale from 1 to 20. The higher the number, the more the filter part filters out. The recommended, according to ASHRAE, our heating and air conditioning engineers recommended MERV 13 or higher, because that's where you start grabbing those droplet nuclei, the sneezes and coughs, if you will, out of the air. That's why MERV 13 is being recommended.
Well, and just for perspective, Rob, what's the normal everyday cheapo filter that somebody might have in their home? What would the MERV rating for that regular ordinary filter be? Usually?
Yep, 1-inch filters, which is about half the market, and residentially speaking, are at best. If you go to a big box store, you're going to get a MERV 8. Okay.
At best, right?
At best. Yeah. It'll help a little bit with some of the particles in the air, but at best. 1 and 2 inch air filters, commercially speaking, would be probably in that same range. Sometimes you can get away with a little bit higher because the motors are bigger in those equipment, but typically between, I would say, 8 and 10 is probably a fair guesstimate, I would say.
Right.
That.
Right.
So MERV 13, both ASHRAE and the EPA are recommending MERV 13 and the fans be on constant, so the filters have a chance to gather up, and the contaminants have to get to the filter, obviously, in order to get to it. MERV 13 by both ASHRAE and EPA are recommended because that's the first MERV rating where you start really grasping some of those droplet nuclei. The sneezes and coughs is what I'm talking about, and that's the whole reason why we're wearing masks, to keep them to ourselves. But let's say somebody sneezed or coughed, it got in the air. Well, MERV 13 has the capability to get most of what the virus might be attached to, the larger droplets. MERV 13 will help with that. So I want to let everybody know that's why MERV 13 is recommended. Now, not all systems can handle that air filter because of the static pressure resistance, the resistance it places on the air distribution system. So here in New York, on Governor Cuomo, most recently, gyms were still not open. But as this past week, he is going to allow gyms to open as long as people wear masks all the time and can incorporate MERV 13 air filters in their systems. I was glad to hear that he said, because I think he's listening, and I think New York State's working with ASHRAE, actually. If your system cannot handle the MERV 13, we want it in writing why it can't, which is a fair thing to do. Don't just say you have to have MERV 13, because you could cause a lot of other problems if your system, you put a MERV 13 filter in and your system can't handle it, you're going to cause mechanical problems. So what is it going to do to lead times? So that's why there's MERV 13. What is it going to do to lead times? I think you're going to find that a lot of the manufacturers that I'm aware of are going to be ramping up as long as they can get workers in and coming in. You're going to see, actually, what I think is going to happen, bigger picture, is you're going to see more players come into the market for different technologies, not just filtration, but other technologies. I think you're going to find that MERV 13 filters are readily available because not everybody's there yet, or from a knowledge standpoint from the general public, they're just not there yet. They're probably getting there, but there's still plenty of supply for MERV 13 as it is right now, because it just hasn't hit them. It hasn't hit full bore yet because of the message and education. Does that make sense, Ken? Am I making sense?
Yeah. No.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay.
And then this is great, because now I want to talk for just a second about my favorite part of that question, which was why not use HEPA? And I think that's the fun part of the question, because, and you know what, let me take a step back for a second. One of the big problems with indoor air quality, maybe the biggest problem with indoor air quality conversations, is that not only are homeowners not well versed in all the things that are available to them. Unfortunately, a huge portion of our contractor base is also not well versed in all the amazing products and technologies that are available in indoor air quality. It's remarkable what's out there and what's been out there and what's coming in terms of being able to help with all this. And HEPA is one of the most valuable pieces of that puzzle. I'm going to tee it up for you and let you talk about it.
So I appreciate that. Before I head over to HEPA, I just wanted to say, because I had another comment just came in, Ken, actually talking about the availability of MERV 13.
Yeah.
So in complete transparency, we actually work closely with Dust Free air filtration products, so Dust Free. And Josh happens to be watching, and he just chimed in. He said, by October, MERV 13 supply should be in really good shape. And everybody's been working through demand issues, and media companies are clearing out backlogs. So it's getting better. Nice. So if there was an issue, which I really guess didn't realize there was, but if there was, according to Josh anyway, at Dust Free, that's coming back around.
That's good
where
news.
Can those filters be found was the other question. So get a hold of your local heating and air conditioning distributor. There's a couple companies, again, in true transparency, we do work closely with. Dust Free is one of them. Zephyr Air Filtration out in Las Vegas is another one that, by the way, if you do have a 1-inch return filter grill, check out their product, the VGF, because that one fits into a 1-inch filter slot in a return air grill, which you can get a MERV 13. So just so you know. The solutions are out there. That's all I want to say. And I just want to be upfront about it, that we are, we do work closely with a couple, but I don't want this to be an infomercial. But I appreciate the input, Josh. So HEPA.
HEPA. So the part of the story, so I love talking about HEPA because it's such a good news item for not just the homeowner, but the contractor. And so and I'll tee it up for you, but what I mean by that is, for the homeowner, for a very, very reasonable cost, is going to walk away with hospital grade filtration for their home. I don't even know personally what the MERV rating is for a HEPA unit. It's through the roof though, right? If you were to
17.
give
Yep.
Okay. So 17. And for the contractor, obviously, it is a new revenue stream that they might not be familiar with. It only takes a few hours to install. It's an reasonably inexpensive, incredible solution to this problem, right? I mean, am I wrong about any of that?
No, and here's the thing. We just got done saying if you have a 1-inch filter slot, let's say, and you can't put a MERV 13 filter in your system because it has too much resistance, okay? It's a certain percentage of the population out there. You just can't put a MERV 13 in because your system's not going to work right, okay? You're restricting too much airflow. Never fear. These HEPA air filters are out. They're installed separately from the heating and air conditioning equipment out. So, but they attach to the existing air distribution system. So they're self-contained air filtration units that work off of recirculation or bypass. So you duct them in real super easy. You know, they're basically, there's a fan in there. As long as power is nearby, yes, it can, to your point, it's very easy to install. You're cutting out 2 holes basically in the return air plenum. You're mounting it to the return air plenum. You're powering it, and then you're letting it rip. You'll have your main blower goes on.
Yeah.
You can still leave your 1-inch air filter in that was there before to help protect the equipment, but now you're doing something for your breathing air. You're not taxing the system and reducing that static pressure. So HEPA air filtration, hospital grade air filtration, is possible for any system because it has its own fan. So and I think that it's got such a negative stigma to it in a lot of cases because some contractors think they're too hard to put in.
Right.
I guess it's situational. Yeah, maybe it is. If you think of an attic, maybe you don't have, the spacing wise, or you can put it, honestly, I think a lot of people think in terms of HEPA as being a room only solution. Right. They might be familiar with the HEPA because of room only
units. Yeah. Which, don't get me started on those.
Yeah. I mean, okay. You're going to pay a pretty penny for one that really works, truly works, right? But you're doing a room only. And then by the time you have to do an upstairs or downstairs, you're going to add up all the costs. So I'd like people to step back and look at the whole home solution side of these strategies, especially filtration. Look at the whole home approach.
Right.
HEPA you can have HEPA hospital grade filtration for the entire home. They are not terribly difficult to install. I think within a half a day, easily a contractor can have one up and running, no problem. Again, as long as power is nearby and you don't have any electrical restrictions.
Yep.
Usually 115 volts, and you let them run all the time.
Yep.
I know people that use these things and they swear by them. They work.
For sure. Yeah. No. Especially right now. All right. Well, let's keep going with other solutions then. Why don't I just open the window and let a bunch of fresh air in and solve it that way?
Yeah. And again, for those of you that just might be joining, you certainly welcome comments here. Our producer, Chris Grubbs, is in the background watching for comments. So if you want to have any questions, please put them into the chat box and we will address your questions you might have. So please feel free. This is a two-way street. So yeah, first and foremost, Ken, I think fresh air is highly underrated.
Big time.
In our trade.
We know that. I mean, we just know that it is because no one talks about it enough.
There's not too many parts of the country that you can leave your windows and doors open year round. And what do you do? Because over the past several decades, the homes and buildings have gotten tighter and tighter. There's Icynene, there's all kinds of, insulation technologies out there now that really seal up the house very well for efficiency purposes, right? For efficiency purposes.
That's right.
So the structure got priority and your efficiency got priority. Well, what about your breathing air?
That's right.
It kind of suffers now it's like taking your house and putting shrink wrap all around it.
That's right.
Is really what it's like doing, right? Shrink wrapping it. You're
breathing that same air over and over again. Yeah.
Yep. We breathe in about, as human living adults, we breathe about 3,000 gallons of air a day. I think it's 20 some thousand breaths.
Yeah.
Compared to the 3 gallons of water that we need a day, where's the priority? So we put a lot of priority on drinking water, right? And people pay a lot of money for great drinking water, but how about where you spend 90% of your life inside somewhere? And by the way, 2/3 of your life's probably in your bedroom. It's inside. Okay. So 90% of your life. What about the air you're breathing? Well, by bottling up and sealing up your house, and the EPA studies have shown this, and I'm sure a lot of people have heard this before, but the air inside becomes way exponentially more polluted than it is outside. Yep. That's what happens. So what do? Your idea, well, if I can't open the window, fresh air exchange. There's a way to get fresh air in constantly through your house. Fresh air exchangers bring the fresh air in constantly and exhaust all that stale, dirty air. and they do it efficiently. So you're not taxing the HVAC
They do it
system.
efficiently and they filter it. So it's way better than just opening a window, because when you open a window, the air isn't filtered, and now you're mixing hot air with cold air, and that's not efficient. In fact, they're called energy recovery ventilation, the ERV. So, and heat recovery
ERVs
ventilation,
and
um,
HRVs. Yep.
specifically meant to bring fresh air into the house without losing any energy, and without giving up filtered air at the same time. So it's part of the story. There is no one
Yep.
size fits all IAQ solution. There are lots of prongs to that attack, and
Yep.
that's the fresh air prong, and it works.
Dilution is the solution to pollution. Isn't
Yeah,
that
yeah,
catchy?
yeah.
Isn't that just catchy? They love
Yeah,
that. So
it's
yes,
like a rap
dilution
song
is
or
fresh air.
something.
Don't overlook fresh air. It's
Yep.
possible, and these devices are typically not hard to install, and there's several ways to do those. So don't
Yep.
rule those out. We talked about air filtration. Obviously, if you have a 1-inch air filter in your home, look at your options. You have plenty of options. Talk with your heating and air conditioning contractor, your professional, and they will help you see what your system is like as it is today and what filter you can handle. And again, don't fear if you can't upgrade the 1-inch to something else. There's always HEPA. That's the ultimate in filtration. And then I want to say, this pandemic has really, really highlighted a technology that's been around for a long time, and that's ultraviolet irradiation. Okay. Ultraviolet light has been proven and studied for years, and it has been shown and proven that it treats microbes, living organisms. Traditionally in our industry, we've used it to, actually hospitals use it, surgical rooms. There's actually, remember I was talking about new innovations that have come out in the past few months. Well, a lot of those, we have robots now that go around and shine UV lights in the spot. It takes hours to do. However, there's new technologies to the point. I think a lot of people aren't aware that there are UV lights available for your residential home in addition to commercial applications to help. It's a maintenance item. It's not typically a proactive air treatment strategy. It's not an air purifier, but it will prevent the equipment from becoming a source of an issue where you might be spreading things around. So typically UV lights are used in our trade to shine on an evaporator coil, the indoor coil part of your air conditioning system, where it's dark and wet. You keep that light shined on it, and you stop anything from growing on that coil and spreading anything around. So,
I think there's a lot of confusion about that, Rob.
Yeah.
I think not just the public, but a lot of people in our business still think, and I just saw an article a couple of days ago that almost kind of made it worse. That are under the impression that UVC light is kind of the end all be all, and that's going to solve all your problems. And I just think it's important to highlight what you just said, which is it's not a proactive air purification product. It's a maintenance product. We let it shine on the coil, on the evap coil. It keeps it clean. It keeps it mold free. It'll kill anything on it, virus or otherwise. But that's all it does.
Traditionally, yes.
UVC light, and correct me if I'm wrong, UVC light is very effective as long as it gets to shine on something for a pretty significant period of time.
Yes.
Right.
You need exposure time, and you need to be close to it. You need to be in a proximity that's effective as well. You can't be 4 feet away from the darn light. It's not strong enough. So exposure time and proximity to the light. Yes. So traditionally they're used for germicidal purposes on coils. However, it is possible to take a UV lamp and size it appropriately. And this is one of the things we've seen that's happened over the past few months. So stay tuned, everyone. There's new technologies coming out. If you size the UV light appropriately, and there might be multiple lights and the lengths are appropriate, you will actually have the ability to use that as an air purification strategy. In other words, kill on contact. So if you think of a certain number of foot of ductwork, and a germ comes through there, it basically gets knocked down by the time it comes out. So in and out, it's dead. Okay. So there are technologies that are going to be, UV is changing, it's advancing. That's my point. So stay tuned, but you're right about the confusion thing. I saw something the other day too. I think I saw maybe the same thing you did, where you walk through a UV lamp and you're like, it sterilizes you. First of all, UVC, you can't stand in front of, you can't look at it. I don't know how they're exposing people. I guess I have to research that more. I'm not the expert on that particular device. I guess I got to look at it closer, but to me, in my head, I question, how can I walk through a UV light? And then, it's all, if I am sanitized, it's only gonna be momentarily. I'm going to get dirty again next time I start talking to you.
Exactly. Exactly,
So,
exactly,
so
exactly.
be on the lookout. Look at germicidal UV. A lot of commercial spaces in ASHRAE actually suggest germicidal UV as well. So, or even our own trade organization of engineers recommends germicidal UV. So just keep an eye out for that. Is one prong, one solution. But I see it in my head traditionally as a maintenance item to keep the system clean. Okay. Next, the really exciting part is air purification. So there are multiple air purifiers out on the market, right? And Ken, if you were to look out on the internet right now, I mean,
Oh
it's
my
a
gosh.
question for you, but you see the multiple devices. How do you know where to go? I mean, what do I need? What do I need? What am I doing?
Absolutely correct. And in fact, that's you set that up. We want to remind people to make sure they go to iaq.works. There's just so much information available there, whether you're a homeowner, contractor, or anything else, just tons of information there. Rob, you're more the expert than I am, but let me at least just say once again that when it comes to purification, you can go on the internet, and what you're really going to see is the retail version of that, which is that standalone tower that you put in the corner of the room, and it purifies the air in the room. Now, I'm not even going to talk about the efficacy of the unit itself. Maybe it does work, but it's only working for the room that it's sitting in.
Yeah,
You and
yeah.
I are in the business of talking about solutions that are going to affect the entire
So
home.
again, that's a great point. Think in terms first and foremost of whole home solutions. You're going to get the best bang for your dollar if you go whole home. You're going to spend way more money trying to treat room by room by room. Think in terms first of whole home. Now, you may have a hydronic system and no ductwork. You might need something differently, but predominantly, if you have a forced air system where there's ductworks, registers, and grills, and there's forced air, there's a blower, think first of whole home solutions. Secondly, so the question being, if I'm looking on the internet and I got all these devices, how do I differentiate? What the heck am I doing? First and foremost, and I'll keep this as simple as possible. What are you trying to do? What is your purpose? All right, I want to kill germs. I want to kill germs and odors. Oh, by the way, prior to pandemic, the same targeted groups of people that were having breathing issues or might be immunocompromised are the same folks we're talking about now during the pandemic. Nothing's changed. It's
Absolutely.
just, the story is getting our story is getting louder and louder, and more people have open ears now and more attention to it.
Yep.
Look for something that treats all three levels of contaminants. So when I say we're going to purify the air, a lot of people, that means a lot of different things to a lot of people. And I try to keep it simple. The CDC has defined three levels of contaminants. Okay. There's only three of them. Germs. Those are the things that get us sick. Odors. This could be pet odors. It could be new construction materials. It could be hairspray. They're VOCs, volatile organic compounds. And lastly, particulates. These are the things that are floating in the air that you and I can't see, over 99% of them, but we're breathing in. So those three, I would suggest to make sure whatever device you're looking at, that it treats all three of those contaminant levels. Okay. And they exist, they're out there. Secondly, now it's going to treat all three. Well, how's it doing it? You want something that does it proactively and treats the entire space. So it probably uses your air distribution system. The device gets installed in the supply air ductwork or return air, and it proactively treats every corner of that house. And the thing here, Ken, that I forget sometimes myself, because this is the best part. Not is it only cleaning the air, but it's cleaning surfaces and everything we touch.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Exactly. We're all wearing our masks. That's great. That's terrific. And to a lesser extent, we should still be concerned about surfaces because we know the virus lives on there for a while. These products send out things into the air that actually treat the surfaces. That's remarkable.
So proactively treats the air and surfaces. When you're going through those two questions and answering those two questions, you're looking at all device. I would strongly encourage anyone to make sure that that device is third-party validated. It has the testing done by
For
a
sure.
third party that validates the claims that the device is making. Please, please, please make sure it's third-party validated, third-party tested. And a lot of people want to say they're effective against COVID. Just be cautious. Look at the data. Look at the testing. Okay, it's important.
I'm going to hazard to guess that because of COVID, I imagine there are a lot of Johnny come lately kind of devices that either are already out on the market or probably will be. And I just want to point out, remember that some manufacturers, particularly the ones that we're associated with, have been in this business for a lifetime. And we've been doing this a very long time, long before COVID came around, and we'll be here long after COVID is gone. But there might be some wannabes out there, and I would be cautious against those.
Absolutely. So we got fresh air. we have germicidal UV, we have air filters, we talked about air purifiers. The last thing, and it's been so, this is the one thing that's probably changed the most in the past few months about how we treat it. And that's humidity control.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I live in a northern climate. Normally in the heating season, you run your furnace, you dry the air out inside severely. You do need a humidifier to get that humidity back up, right? Most contractors talk in terms of do that because of comfort, right?
Right. Or
This
save the furniture. You don't
conversation-
want the
Yeah.
furniture to get
Yeah, your
dried
window,
out.
you
Save
don't want
your
your
Ethan Allen dining set. Yeah.
you don't
Yeah.
want your piano, your Wurlitzer drying
Right.
out. You don't want your
Right.
hardwoods drying out. So in terms, again, it's for us and for our things, right? But here's the thing: this has really been upended and turned on its head. Studies have shown that we need relative humidity to be between 40 and 60% RH. Okay, if you go lower than 40 or higher than 60, some bad things happen.
I hate to interrupt you, but that's
Yeah.
the part of the story that was so surprising to me. I understood that we need to humidify the areas that are too dry. That made perfect sense to me. Let's add some humidity to that section. I did not for a second understand that you don't want to humidify it too much. You can't go over the 60 number, or you start to have the same set of problems. There's that gap right there that you have to be in.
So what happens if you're not in that range? Two major things happen. One, you will let the germs and pathogens survive longer, hang out longer in the air.
Wow.
And you give the ability to get way down in your bloodstream in your body. Okay. So you allow them so that's second, actually. First is you let the pathogen survive longer. Okay. They can hang out in the air longer and they can be around. You let them survive, first of all. Secondly, if you're not in that range, 40 to 60% RH, you don't give your bodies a natural ability to fight those pathogens. You're actually weakening yourself. You're dehydrating yourself if you're in a northern climate. Check out Dr. Stephanie Taylor. She's on LinkedIn, and we actually interviewed her on Rep Talk. It's really
you had her on your
studies.
show.
Yep. Check it out. 40 to 60. In fact, as a matter of reference, for anybody who really wants to dive into it, go to 40to60rh.com. That's 40to60rh.com. 40to60rh.com. That's a great resource for you guys. So again, in the southern climates, or where you might be more humid, you have to dehumidify, and the air conditioning system alone is not meant to handle that humidity in the air. Yes, it does dehumidify by way of running and operating, but it's not sole purpose is for comfort, not for getting the dehumidification where it needs to be. So in those zones where you might be more humid, you need a whole home dehumidifier. In the climates where in your probably northern climates where you need humidification, you need whole home humidification. So there's different ways to do it. Check out those devices. You can get in that range. Stay in that range is going to keep you healthier. Buildings have to do the same thing. And speaking of buildings, I have to segue a little over here because we do have another question about schools reopening. And I'll just read it here real quick.
Yeah.
Schools reopening is obviously on top of the mind right now. What should they consider in terms of IAQ and their HVAC systems? And how should a contractor prepare and get these local schools contracts? Okay. So I would use the ashray.org website as a reference because they have an entire page of building back to work procedures for buildings, and they have back to school procedures for schools and what's recommended. Air filter changes, fresh air first and foremost, as you're going to see. I would, if you're a contractor listening to this right now, look at that as a resource. The documents are there. You can download them, read them. The guidelines are all there. Fresh air is first and foremost. Pre-purge during pre-occupancy, post-purge, you leave the blower running. You get as much outside air in as feasible. Filtration, MERV 13. I've even seen in ASHRAE, if you can't filter the air, generally speaking, throughout a central system, you might need room. You might need the room solutions in each classroom. They actually suggest that if you're higher ed in universities, not only a portable unit in each room, but a portable unit in each dorm room, classroom and dorm room.
And I think it's a little bit different in the commercial side of the world. As much as I poo-poo it residentially, because it's so easy to treat the whole home as we talk about, I think when it comes to commercial applications, that does change a little bit. And there are incredibly powerful new products and technologies coming out that are that standalone unit for these classrooms, gymnasiums, cafeterias. There's a lot going on there. As a contractor, oh my gosh, is now the time to get dialed into that conversation about the local schools and how they're going to reopen. Huge opportunities there to help people with their health, kids this time.
Yep. If you have contacts and with schools or municipalities that are looking to reopen, I would say familiarize yourself with the ashray.org website. And there's a particular page on there as far as reopening. Another huge resource I want to share with everybody is the Harvard School of Public Health. And this is Dr. Joseph Allen. He is excellent. This is his whole deal about how actually he's a big proponent of getting kids back in schools, right? Because there are solutions that are more than good enough to get people back in buildings. So if you want to go to forhealth, FOR health.org, that's where his group is, forhealth.org. You can download the 9 foundations of healthy buildings. I did. It's great reading. And then if you're residentially based, they have 36 expert tips to make your home a healthier home. Huge resource online from the Harvard School of Public Health. I've listened to Dr. Allen now a bunch of times. He's excellent. There's PhDs in this, Ken. Honestly, there's PhDs that exist to help us.
I thought you were a PhD in this.
Yeah, no,
Wait a second. I thought you had a PhD.
My
Hey,
father's
as long
a
as we're
PhD.
talking about articles and stuff, I think that's a huge deal here. Let me do this. If I can do this right. This came out in the news a couple days ago that the Tennessee Valley Authority, the TVA, which is a huge utilities company in the South. And by the way, it's not just Tennessee. I naively somehow thought maybe it was just Tennessee. The TVA covers like 7 states or something. And I just didn't realize that. So the huge swath of the South is covered by this. They are incentivizing UVC light installations and related products, I think, that use UV light, $30 a ton. And I don't know why they're tying it to the tonnage of the air conditioning unit, but they are. So, God bless them. But when a business goes to open now, there's at least help from the utility company already if they install UV systems. And I know there's multiple ways of looking at what a UV system is. So anyway, I just thought that was good news. It'll probably happen in I would think other utility companies would probably eventually come on board with that kind of thing too. I just thought that was a good time to mention that.
Yeah, I would imagine so. And I think it's going to vary from state to state too, as to what solutions and grant money is available.
Yeah.
There's going to be different, that's one example, Ken. I think what's going to happen more and more because, it's super important to get people back to work, obviously.
I think
back
so
to
too.
school.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
So what would be, again, if you're just watching or joining, please use you're more than welcome to chime into this conversation. Please use the text box or chat box over there. We'll have our producer, Chris Grubbs, is monitoring for us, and he's plugging them in so we can read them. Please, it's a two-way street. Ken, I'd like to segue over to something, we talked about this in a different episode too, but for those that maybe have not seen this, what would our message be? Why does IAQ matter? Why would a contractor want to get involved in IAQ at all? I think, we kind of laid this out already, all the reason, but maybe they need to do a couple things differently now. Maybe they've been listening for the past 45 minutes. It's not too late, right?
The other way we talked about it, I think, was as a contractor, your company has what I would call a personality. Your contracting business has a personality, whatever that is. If you're an add-on replacement guy, you know what that means. You do the typical same kind of calls all the time. Maybe your focus is the real super high efficiency stuff. Maybe you take a lot of pride in installing nothing but 16 SEER 2-speed variable air handler products, and that's your shtick. And I think every contracting company has sort of that personality, and that may or may not already include some degree of indoor air quality. Now, by the way, if you install humidifiers, and most of you will be doing that in the Northeast, you're already in indoor air quality. So don't think it's like a club that you have to join. You're already in indoor air quality if you're in the humidification business. So I would just strongly suggest that now more than ever is the time to think about the personality of your contracting business. Why not be more associated? Why not be more known as an indoor quality expert in your market? As a revenue stream, it's going to be incredibly profitable for your company. As far as your nobility factor is concerned, it'll be off the charts because you're helping people with their health, not just their comfort and their energy. So it's that personality of your contracting firm that I think you have a rare opportunity to kind of rethink right now. And more associated, something that's going to be helpful to the community, put more money in your pocket as a company, and just overall all do good for everyone. I mean,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
What was that phrase
agree
we
with-
saw that was in one of the Hardy emails? Sell the new normal.
Sell the new normal. And that's exactly right. It is part of the new normal, and it should be part of the new normal. I bet you if you went down the street and said to most people, ask them what IAQ stood for, I'm quite sure that 99% of the people wouldn't even know what IAQ stands for. And no fault of their own. Why should they? But I think it should be part of the conversation. We all know what masks are all about now. I think going forward, we should all know exactly what HEPA is. We should all know exactly what MERV 13 is. And as a contractor, you're going to benefit from that. You should jump into this industry right now. It's easy to do. There's tons of training available. We have training on our website, kggconsulting.com. There's a ton of training available there. You're a trainer, Rob. By definition, you are a trainer in IAQ. So there's tons of ways to get into this business, and that's why it matters.
So along those lines, if you do need additional resources or would like to look into IAQ further, please check out kggconsulting.com. We have a HVAC training tab on there. You can watch them on demand. Actually is thanks to Chris again, Chris Grubbs, he just got our learning management system up and running.
Yeah, there's a whole learning management system there now.
Take the courses, take the quizzes. You go through 3 of them. There's indoor air quality basics. Air purification technologies is the second one, and then finally selling IAQ if you need some ideas of how to approach homeowners and building owners with indoor air quality. IAQ.works is a website, a landing page that anybody can go to, whether you're a homeowner, business owner, business manager, contractor, distributor. So when you type it into the search bar or into your web browser, don't put www in there. Just do IAQ.works and no .com, and you'll get right to where we're talking about. We have some brochures on there, some informational brochures for you to use. We also have our YouTube channel, as you might know or be aware, because you're on here now. Please subscribe. Think about subscribing and think about checking us out on Rep Talk and some of the episodes there. Ken, what else we got? I think we're wrapped up with questions.
We could belabor it and talk about it more, but I think that's the gist of it. This is important to you and me. It matters. It's important to it's a relevant conversation as far as current events go. And I think we did a good job. The questions were fun. That was cool.
Be determined, right? I think you did a good job too, Ken.
Okay, thank you,
Chris. Thank you so much.
We'll probably do it again someday. We'll do it again someday, right?
Yeah, exactly. I hope so.
Yep.
I'll change the logo behind me here. We'll get to the live version. But Chris, thank you for hanging out with us. All our watchers and viewers today, thank you so much for spending some time with us this morning or afternoon, depending on where you are.
All our watchers,
all our viewers, all our attentive viewers. We thank you for hanging with us for a little bit. Hopefully you got something out of this. Please, we're open for feedback. Check us. You'll find our contact information on our website, kggconsulting.com. You can find us on LinkedIn. And we look forward to getting some feedback from you guys, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
Yep. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.